What up, everybody, and welcome back to another JPD. Our first foray into antiquity was well received, so we'll look into another battle of Alexander the Great. Again, no Thursday discussion for this one, just a little history lesson and some points to ponder. Before watching this video, please take 10 and watch the Baz Battles video I sent out in Slack so you have some context. So, as you saw in that Baz Battles video, the siege of Tyre was pretty amazing, and there's a lot to unpack. For timeline, in 333 BC, Alexander's Macedonian army defeated Persian king Darius at Issus, the first such defeat for the Persians. The siege of Tyre took place the following year in 332 BC, and Alexander would go on to defeat Darius again at Gaugamela in 331 BC. You can check out our video on Gaugamela if you haven't seen it. In quick summary, after Issus, Alexander had a clear road to chase Darius into Mesopotamia and invade the heart of the Persian Empire. He chose instead to conquer the Phoenician coast, knowing the Persian fleet would threaten his rear and supply chain. After conquering each port and trade center, he was faced with the strategic stronghold and wealthy port of Tyre. Alexander did not wish for a long siege, but he knew Tyre cannot be left untouched given its status as the sole base of operations for the Persian fleet in the Mediterranean. Alexander sent emissaries to Tyre, and they were promptly executed. Enraged, Alexander ordered the siege, which required the construction of a causeway under fire and over the natural land bridge leading to the island. Both sides made adjustments over the months, and Alexander leveraged diplomacy to establish naval supremacy. Eventually, the Macedonians broke through the walls and took the city. Following this conquest, Alexander would complete his conquest of Gaza and the Phoenician coast, then Egypt, before moving into Mesopotamia and his final battle with Darius, completing his defeat of the Persian Empire. Got all that? All right. So, like any battle, and especially those of Alexander, there are lots of takeaways. We've picked out 4 that can be applied today, and we hope you find some inspiration in these lessons from the past. First one is patience. So we talked about this when we discussed Gaugamela, but it cannot be overstated. Alexander's ability to resist the urge for the quick win, the easy path, repeatedly paid dividends. He could have easily chased Darius into Mesopotamia, and while victory could have been swift, he would have lost his supply and support from home. While Darius was a threat, the greater threat, the strategic threat, was the Persian fleet. Alexander knew that in order to move freely in the future, he needed command of the Mediterranean. Of course, there's a lesson for us. Before we go venturing into new projects or opportunities, is the rear secure? Is the home front taken care of? By stretching out, are we leaving ourselves exposed in other ways? By taking a strategic view, we can head off issues before they arise, prevent ourselves from making missteps, and position ourselves for future success. Secondly, persistence. This bit's pretty cool. So, faced with an island fortress thought to be impregnable, Alexander said, let's build a road. The water was an obstacle, but it also pointed the way to victory. Of course, it wasn't that simple. As his engineers came into range of enemy missile fire, adjustments had to be made, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But it was Alexander's commitment, his willingness to lean into the problem, that started him down the path to success. Once reaching the island, he again had to overcome the obstacle of the city walls, innovate and persist until the moment of opportunity presented itself. He could have quit at any point, but this would have been disastrous for his campaign. In the same way, once we've identified a goal or course of action that is of tremendous importance for us, we need to have the fortitude to lean into the obstacles and let them help us drive our motivation and creativity. We don't curse the problem, rather, the problem becomes the path to the solution. A break for our sponsor. So, chess has been the hotness for a little bit, especially since The Queen's Gambit premiered on Netflix in 2020. According to Wikipedia, the show is a coming-of-age period drama miniseries based on Walter Tevis's 1983 novel of the same name. The story follows the life of Beth Harmon, an orphan chess prodigy, on her rise to the top of the chess world while struggling with drug and alcohol dependency. In addition to critical and popular acclaim, it has also received positive response from the chess community and is claimed to have increased public interest in the game. Also up here on the slide, I haven't tried Storytime Chess yet, but there's some positive testimonials if you're looking to get your kids in the game. So check them out. Let me know how they are. All right, third, diplomacy. Here we have two examples. First, Alexander wished to make a sacrifice in Tyre's temple as he related to their local deity, identified it with Heracles. Now, of course, he still wanted to conquer the city, but at least he made an effort to relate to the people of Tyre based on a common interest. So he sent his emissaries to the island, and the people of Tyre executed them and threw them into the sea. This is considered a negative example of diplomacy, as Alexander, if not already motivated militarily to take the island, now had vengeance on his mind. A positive example of diplomacy is when Alexander started getting closer to Tyre. His siege works were harassed by ships from Persia and Tyre. Alexander was known for being a relatively gracious conqueror, keeping locals in power, allowing people to keep their religions and traditions, and the like. So, when the call went out for assistance, the port cities he had just conquered, Arwad, Bablis, and Sidon, were happy to sail under his banner. Ships came in from Greece, and the king of Cyprus, seeing Alexander's victories and wanting to share in the glory, provided ships as well. Success begets success, and people want to play on a winning team. The big takeaway here is that relationships matter. How you treat people matters. Having the humility to ask for help, even from a position of strength, can help you accomplish things thought to be impossible. Lastly, innovation. We talk about innovation a lot, and we saw a number of examples in Tyre. The ability to assess a problem and find creative solutions was evident on both sides. Alexander used the ruins of Old Tyre to build a road to New Tyre. Tyre assaulted Alexander's engineers with projectiles. Alexander responded with siege towers, and Tyre responded with incendiary ships. Faced with harassment from naval forces, Alexander found an innovative diplomatic solution, and faced with the city walls, he set up naval battering rams. To confound this, Tyre sent ships and divers to cut their anchor cables, and to counter this, Alexander replaced the anchor cables with chains. Both sides innovated to outmaneuver their opponent until Alexander finally broke through. Of note is that Alexander did not make these gains in a vacuum. He leveraged Diades of Pella, an engineer and inventor responsible for many of Alexander's siege engines. He had the means and talent to lean on, staying inside the enemy's OODA loop. The innovations throughout the siege were largely reactionary, but the lesson is still good. Be creative in addressing issues, empower the right people, and act decisively. All right, wrap up. On the slide's a look at Tyre today, and you can see how Alexander's causeway has endured and expanded over the years. It's cool to see how this battle shaped both politics and geography. So I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe on the Double Deuce Cloud, and we'll see y'all soon. Have a good one.